Hello everyone. So I've had a few requests for me to do a little bit of a tutorial about the weaving that I've been doing. So here we are. I've pre-cut my strips. So this was just an old drawing I didn't want anymore that I've cut into strips, and I've also cut up a book page as well. And I'm just grabbing some masking tape and I'm going to stick the top half of my strips directly down to my desk. Like so. Okay, and then it's just weaving the pages in between. So I'm going to go over under, like so, and then reverse it. So under, over, and I'm just going to carry on and just pushing up the pages, pushing them up, and I kind of, because they're stuck to this, you can kind of just sort of push them with your fingers to sort of lift and help you get the papers through and where you want them to be. And I shall probably just speed up this next bit so that you don't have to watch me do the whole weaving. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it there, I think. So I'm just going to trim off the bits that I don't want. Okay, and then to make it a little bit easier to sew, I'm just going to grab my craft glue. This is just a Beacon craft glue, strong glue, and I'm just going to put a tiny little blob at each corner that's just going to hold it in place just as long as I need it to, until I can get it under my sewing machine. Come on, glue. Hang on. There we go. So just a tiny little blob. You don't want to put too much, because, especially if you're using your sewing machine. You don't want to gunk up your needle. It's literally just to hold it in place so it doesn't fall apart on me as I'm going. Oops, come on. Come on, glue. There we are. All right, so next thing I'm going to do with this is run it through the sewing machine just to sew it all in place. Okay, and back to you. So this is all sewn. I've also run the sewing machine and all sort of patterns down it so that you can just get a little bit of pattern. And I always like leaving all the threads because I just think that that adds to it. So that's the basic weaving done. And next I'm going to start to decorate it. So I'm just going to grab my gesso, and because it's kind of full of holes, I always put like a sheet, just some scrap paper underneath me, just so that it doesn't get in the way or go onto the desk. So I'm just going to grab some gesso to start with and just start adding a base colour. Now I quite like leaving some of the detail that you get from underneath, so I don't tend to paint the whole thing. I just paint some of it, but you could paint the whole thing if you wanted to. It depends what you want to do with it. Because my drawing that I used to weave with has got some coffee in, that's just reactivating a little bit and making the gesso slightly brown, but that's fine. I'm fine with that. Okay, so there we have a little bit of gesso, and I'm just going to dry that. Okay, now there's lots of different ways that you can add colour. You could use acrylics, you could use watercolour pastels, gouache, anything that you fancy. I'm just going to start with some watercolours. And because I've got some browns going on, I think I'll probably stick with those sorts of colours and go for sort of oranges and yellows and browns. And I'm just going to start adding and moving about with the water some colours. And the nice thing is that the colour just sort of automatically picks up the pattern of the weaving underneath. Okay, let's add some other colours into that. So that was a bit of orange. I'm just going to add a little touch of yellow. And let's see, let's add some brown here and there. I'm not thinking too much about it where I'm putting the colour. I'm just kind of intuitively just slapping it down, really, seeing what happens. Pink, because you know, you can't go wrong with pink. Not quite like that for a base, so I'm just going to give that another quick dry. Okay, so now let's try and add some extra colour over the top. I think I'm going to do that with my pastels. So these are just soft pastels, and I really love using these because you can create different textures with them. So you can add, let's go for a little bit of blues for some contrast. So it picks up the creases of the weaving really nicely. You can rub it with your fingers in, you can leave it as it is, or you can activate it with some water and it will turn it more into like a watercolour, and you can move the colour around that way. So I quite like that splash of dark in the corner. Let's put a little bit of bright pink in over the top. Sometimes you have to be careful, like I've just ripped a little bit, but you know, you have to be slightly delicate with it. But you know, it is what it is. It will turn out all right. Yep, like that. Let's see, let's put in maybe a little touch of red in there. I don't often use red, I have to say, but I kind of feel like that's going to go nicely with that blue up at the top, which is a pinky red as well. So the watercolour is now acting like a base colour, and I'm layering it up with the pastels. You could use acrylics as well, like I say. Let's see, what should we go for now? Let's go for a bit more yellow. Put some yellow back in. I'm never 100% sure whether, you know, how they're going to turn out. They all turn out differently each time. I like how you've got some of the detail from the original weaving with the colour. It's just personal preference, that's what I like to do. And some of the holes that you get. Let's just darken this corner a little bit with a darker blue. Makes me think of like stormy clouds. like that. Maybe just a touch of real bright pink in this corner. Okay, so I'm happy with the colour. And next it's really deciding what I'm going to put on the top, whether I want an image, maybe I just want words. Maybe I want, still a bit wet. I'll just give it a quick dry. So maybe I want an old photograph or something. I quite like using old photos because I just love the stories that they create. Let's see if we can do a quick parcel transfer. So I've got some little printed out photos. Let's see which one is going to work. Maybe that one, that's quite nice, isn't it? Okay, so for my parcel transfer, I'll just put that to one side for a minute. I'm going to get some clear parcel tape. Okay, I'm just going to put that directly over the top of the image, like so, and give it a good rub to make sure that the ink is going to adhere to the sticky surface of the tape. Okay, ooh, I've stuck it too much. Then I'm going to turn it on its back and give it a spray with some water and get that really wet. And then once I've still got pastel on my fingers. Once you've got that wet, it's like a transfer technique. So I'm just going to rub the paper pulp off the back, just leave the image onto the tape itself. Sometimes you have to keep re-wetting it. This way of transferring, it always gets really good results. You need to have used sort of a laser jet image, or it does work. It does work with like newspaper print or magazine prints. So some magazines work and some don't. So you might have to have a bit of an experiment. But usually you get quite good results, and you'll get some kind of image every time. The problem being is that the tape is shiny. So if you don't like the shiny appearance, I'm afraid there's no real way of getting rid of it. It is what it is. I don't mind it myself. I think it just adds to the page. So I'm just rubbing the paper pulp off and just giving it a wipe every once in a while just to get rid of all the little bits of paper. To be a little bit careful because obviously some of the sticky from the actual tape still does remain. Okay, so now I've got my image, and the thing I like about it is that the weaving still shows through. I don't quite know where I want to place that. I think probably in this little corner here. Do I? Maybe I want to flip it. I think I like it in that corner. So I'm just going to trim that image down. To the size I want it. Come on. Something like that. And I'm going to stick that down with a little bit of glue. You can see, I don't know if you can see, but it is quite shiny still. Glue's running out. Oh, come on, glue. It has got some of the sticky left, but I'm just helping it out with a little bit of glue. And so I've got this sort of image of sort of fragments of trees in a little house. I'll hold that up so you can see it a bit better. You see that shininess of it. There we go. Yeah, and you could sew that round as well. And then we want some words. Let's see what words I can find. I tend to like finding words in old books. I mean, look at this. This is a bit of a mess from where I found and cut it up into pieces. Okay, first page. So I tend to just sort of skim read until something grabs me. Oh, I've still got tape everywhere. So I'm just breaking up the sentence with this one. The sentence says, there is so much, so very much to write if it were worthwhile. But I'm going to change it so that it says, there is so much, so very much worthwhile. Quite like that. So there's my worthwhile. And then let's pull out the other bit. So much, so very much. I'm just going to break that down a little bit. So, and I'm going to put that over the word, over the image, I think. So something like that, and give that a stick down. You could put whatever image you want on, you know, or don't put an image on at all. Sometimes I just put words. Now, sticky fingers. So with my threads all yummy and loose, I love that effect. There we are, and I'll hold that up for you. There we go. It's back to front view, I know, but there we have it. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that's given you an idea of how it's done. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.